Most people think making $1 million means grinding for 20 years, but that's complete bull. You know what actually gets you there? Building assets that pay you every single month. Not trading your hours for dollars, not chasing the next shiny object. Assets, guys. In the next 15 minutes, I'm breaking down the exact framework that I use to go from broke to building a portfolio that generates over $41,000 per month. Most entrepreneurs, they waste years doing this backwards. I'm going to show you the shortcut that collapses that timeline completely, all right? But before I get into the nuts and bolts here, I need to tell you about the biggest mistake I made when I just started, okay? It cost me 2 years and damn near bankrupted me. And I see people making this exact same mistake every single day. Businesses that operate on a recurring income model have a 73% higher survival rate than traditional service businesses. That's not my opinion, guys. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistic data, okay? Let that sink in for a second for you. If you're building something where you get paid once and then you have to start over, you're statistically way more likely to fail. But if you build assets that pay you month after month, you're stacking the odds massively in your favor. Now, here's where most people fuck this up. They think reoccurring income means starting a software as a service company or building some complex software platform. But they're wrong, okay? The smartest play in 2025 is way simpler than that. There are over 30 million small businesses in the United States. They're the lifeblood of this economy. And here's the problem. Businesses are struggling for leads. Customers are struggling to find quality services. Business owners will pay you for connecting them with people who need their services. That's digital leasing. You build simple websites that rank on Google for high-intent searches. When somebody types emergency plumber Dallas, your site shows up. You collect that lead and you lease it to the local business for $500 to $2,000 per month. Here's the reality. This model works. I've built a portfolio of digital properties that bring in over $41,000 per month. My students, guys, are making $2,000 to $6,000 a month with the same systems. Click the link for the free training. I'll show you the exact digital leasing strategy step by step. All right, now let me show you the exact framework. Step 1, the math behind $1 million. Let's start with the math because most people don't actually reverse engineer this, right? $1 million, it sounds massive, right? If you want to hit $1 million in net worth from assets, you don't need to make $1 million in 1 year, do you? No, you need assets that consistently produce cash flow. Here's how the math actually works. Let's say you build 40 digital rental properties that each generate $1,200 a month for you. That's $48,000 a month in revenue. Over 2 years, that's $1.15 million in gross revenue. Now, your cost might be 30% of that. So you're netting around $800,000. Add in the equity value of those 40 websites, which you could sell for 30 to 40 times the monthly revenue, and you're sitting on well over $1 million in net worth. But on the flip side, if you're trading your time for money as a freelancer or a consultant, you'd need to bill at $500 per hour for 2,000 hours a year just to gross $1 million. That's completely unsustainable, right? You'll burn out before you ever get there. So why does this matter? Because the math tells you exactly what type of business model to go and build. You need leverage. You need scale. You need assets that work without you. Step 2, picking the right vehicle. Now, let's talk about picking the right vehicle. Not all businesses are created equal, right? Some are slow death traps. Some print money. Let's break this down real quick. I see way too many entrepreneurs chasing low-margin, high-stress business models. Things like drop shipping, Amazon FBA, coaching programs where you're capped by your own time. These models can work, but they don't build equity. You're on a hamster wheel forever at that point. Digital leasing is different. You're building digital real estate. Think of it like this. A roofer in Phoenix needs new customers, right? You build a website, you rank it for Roof Repair Phoenix, and you own that traffic. When somebody searches for that, your site shows up. You collect the lead and you sell it to a roofer for $100 to $200 per lead. Or better yet, you lease the entire website to them for $1,500 a month. That website keeps working for you whether you're awake or you're asleep. It doesn't complain. It doesn't quit. It doesn't take vacations. It's an asset. And the beauty of this model is you can build multiple assets across different cities and different niches. Once you prove this works in one niche, you can just replicate the process. Build, rank, lease, repeat. That's the framework. And that's how you stack income streams until you hit $1 million. Step 3, the asset stacking strategy. The third step is asset stacking. This is where the real magic happens, guys. Most people build one business and they try to scale it vertically. They add more clients, more team members, more overhead. That works to a point, right? But it caps itself out fast because you become the bottleneck. Asset stacking is different, guys. You build horizontally, right? You create multiple small assets that each produce 1,000 to 3,000 a month instead of one giant business that requires your constant attention. You have 20 to 30 assets that run on autopilot for you. Here's why this approach is genius. Diversification, right? If one asset loses ranking or a client leaves, you're still making money from the other 29. You're not betting everything on one horse. You're building a portfolio. And once you have 10 or 15 assets producing income, you can hire somebody to manage them for 20% of the revenue. Now, you've bought back your time while still collecting 80% of the profit. That's how you build real wealth. That's how you create real freedom. Now, here's the thing. None of this works if you're grinding 80 hours a week, right? You're not building a job. You're building assets. The fourth step is systematizing this, okay? You need to document every process, how to find niches, how to build sites, how to rank them, how to find clients. Every single step needs a checklist or a video so that eventually somebody else can do it for you, right? This is where most people fail. They think they need to do everything themselves. They're afraid to delegate. They're convinced that nobody can do it as well as they can. That's their ego talking, right? And ego will keep you broke. So here's how the math works on delegation. Let's say you hire a VA for $15 an hour. They do the work at 80% of your quality level, but they free up 20 hours of your week, right? Now you can use those 20 hours to build 4 more assets. If each asset brings in $1,500 a month, that's $6,000 in new monthly revenue. You paid the VA maybe $1,200 for the month and you gained $6,000. That's the leverage multiplier. And that leads us to step 5, the compounding effect. This is the step that most people never get to because they quit too early. In the first couple of months, guys, you might have about 5 assets that are producing you income. You're making $5,000 to $6,000 a month. That's good, but it's not life-changing just yet. Oftentimes, people don't even get this far. They go chase the next shiny object. But here's the reality. If you keep building, then the growth accelerates. As you build more assets and optimize your systems, your income grows. You're not just adding new properties, you're getting better at the process. You're ranking faster, you're closing clients easier, you're delegating more effectively. That's compounding, right? And once you hit that point, you don't even need to build new assets anymore. You can just optimize what you have, increase the rent, improve conversion rates, and stack more clients in each niche. This is how you go from making your first $5,000 a month to crossing $1 million in total earnings. It's not one big win. It's 100 small wins that compound over time. All right. Let me close this loop on that mistake that I told you about earlier at the beginning. It's the one that cost me 2 years, right? When I first started, I didn't understand asset stacking. I built one really good lead gen site in a service business niche. It was making about $3,000 a month. I thought the answer was just to scale that one site. So I tried to add more cities, more keywords, more complexity. It worked for a little while, but then Google changed their algorithm and my ranking tanked. Overnight, guys, I went from $3,000 a month to $500, and I was f***ed, right? And the worst part is I had no backup. All my eggs were in one basket. This was the wake-up call for me, right? I realized I needed to build multiple assets, not just one. So I pivoted. I started building sites in different niches in different cities. Colorado Springs fence repair, Denver piano movers, Castle Rock concrete. Each site was smaller, but together, guys, they were bulletproof. If one site lost rankings, the others just kept printing money, and that's when everything changed for me. I started scaling my portfolio of sites, and now I've built a portfolio that brings me in over $41,000 per month. So let's break that down. The mistake I made was thinking I needed one massive asset, right? But the truth is, you need a portfolio of small, diversified assets. That's how you build real security and real wealth. Now, why do most people fail at making $1 million? It's not because they don't have the opportunity. It's not because they lack the skills. It's because they approach wealth building completely backwards, right? They chase quick wins instead of building assets. They jump from opportunity to opportunity, never giving anything enough time to really compound. They see someone making money with crypto, so they go and pivot, right? Then they see someone crushing it with e-commerce, so they go pivot again. They're always starting over. Making $1 million requires focus, guys. It requires commitment to one model long enough to see it all the way through. The people who actually cross that threshold are the ones who pick a vehicle and ride it for years, not months. Here's what they don't realize. The first few assets are the hardest. You're learning, right? You're making mistakes. You're figuring out what works. But once you dial in the process, each new asset gets easier and faster to build. The people who win are the ones who stick with it long enough to see the compound interest kick in. They don't chase the next shiny object. They don't get distracted by whatever bullshit is trending on Twitter, right? They stay focused on building assets month after month, site after site, and eventually they wake up one day and they realize they built something massive. A portfolio that generates more money per month than most people make in a year. And it runs whether they're working or not. Look, I'm not going to bullshit you. Making $1 million isn't easy, but it's a hell of a lot more achievable when you're building assets instead of trading time for money. The digital leasing model works. I've made several million from this business model, guys. I've built a portfolio that brings in over $41,000 per month, and I'm not the only one. I've got students like Tyler Lordy and Amanda Myers who have also cleared over $1 million using this same system. Countless students of mine, guys, are making $2,000 to $6,000 a month with this system. Some are already past $10,000 a month. The difference between people who make it and people who don't, it's not talent, it's not luck, it's commitment. It's staying in the game long enough for compound interest to work its magic. So here's what I want you to do. Click the link for the free training. I'm going to walk you through this entire digital leasing system, how to find profitable niches, how to build sites that rank, how to close clients and get them to pay you every single month. This is the real strategy, just the exact blueprint I use to go from broke to financially free. The training is free. The link is below. Let's go build something that lasts.